I just don't know if we're not going to support Bernie Sanders when he does good things, then, I mean, we can do that while we organize, you know? Like, it just sounds like in some people's heads, it's an either or kind of thing. Well, we can organize or we can support Bernie Sanders. And it's like, no, you can do both. All right, hello there. Do you mind giving us your name, your pronouns, and what you would like to discuss today?
Sure. You can call me Atheist Mando. That's how I go on TikTok. My pronouns are its or they, them if you're too uncomfortable with that. And I am a Marxist Leninist.
Okay, excellent. I usually fuck with Marxist-Leninists in most aspects. I used to consider myself one a little bit, but I that was when I was a little bit of a theory bro, and I don't do much reading these days, but
hmm
um, I just consider myself a progressive these days. So, anyway, what are you here to talk about today? You said atheist. What was it?
Atheist Mando.
Atheist Mando. Can I just call you Mando? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can call me Mando.
Okay, Mando it is. All right, Mando. What are you here to discuss?
Yeah. Can I get a before we do that, can I
Sure.
get like your general position on your opinion on Bernie Sanders and AOC?
Well, to be honest, I haven't been keeping up with them a ton in the past few months, but what I do understand is that they are the most progressive politicians in the caucus right now, or at least among them, especially on the national
hmm
stage. I think that they are doing a lot of good things, at least from what I've seen. They had some rallies recently, from what I understand, that had huge turnouts, which is great because, Bernie Sanders is one of the core proponents of Medicare for all, and AOC is right up there with him. So those two together, I feel like they're kind of a dream team right now for the United States. Now, in my opinion, right? Obviously, they're not perfect. There's plenty of things that we can criticize them for, plenty of things that they do wrong. For instance, I don't think that they're. I think that the entire one of the biggest issues I had with them was during the election leading up to the 2024 election, where they were endorsing Joe Biden rather than coming out and saying, well, no, he's not competent. They were kind of hedging their bets that Joe Biden would stay in the race and saying, well, no, actually, Joe Biden's fine. This is good. This is fine. And they weren't calling for him to drop out like a lot of moderate Democrats were, which I found stupid. I thought that was really stupid of them. I think that also I've seen Bernie Sanders recently in at least one interview saying that he was like praising Trump for his concern about the border and we need to be concerned about illegal immigration or something. And I thought that was kind of cringe too. I didn't watch the clip, but that's what I understand came out of it. So I definitely have my critiques of these people, AOC and Bernie Sanders. But I think overall, they are like I said a couple times, they are the most progressive politicians right now in the caucus. And we should be supporting with very loud voices every single time they do something good, like, you know, come down on the oligarchy, support Medicare for all, rally people to their rallies, their gatherings, and get progressive ideas out into the world. I think that is a fantastic job that they're doing overall.
Okay.
Critical support.
Um, Critical support, right. So when it comes to speaking out against oligarchies, do you think that Bernie Sanders and AOC extend that to our allies?
Our allies, such as.
Um, Say, for instance, members of NATO, such as Hungary or Austria, with the FPO party that is on the rise right now and is in power. They've done I don't know if, because I'm from TikTok, so I don't know what words I can use. So,
You're on TikTok right now?
no, I'm not on TikTok right
You're
now.
not
It's
on
just
TikTok.
that, yeah, I just wanted to know like which words I can say, what can't I say.
Well, I am not currently streaming to TikTok, and I don't really plan to at any point. So, whatever words are
So,
generally fine, as long as they're Twitch and YouTube appropriate.
so no gamer words, got it.
No, yeah, no slurs. No slurs. That's the big one.
Oh, don't worry. Um, yeah, the FBOs it specifically was on the rise, and they've had a strong correlation
The
to
what's on the rise?
Adolf
Sorry.
Hitler. Um, Hungary's I mean, Austria and Hungary's alt-right parties. Austria, specifically with the
Right.
FPO, has a strong sentiment for Nazism. They've done rallies in Nazi areas. Not only that, but they have done racial puritanism. Not only that, but we can look to our ally in the Middle East, Israel, and how they perpetuate a onslaught of a genocide and perpetual occupation of the Palestinian people. Um,
Sure. Bernie Sanders and AOC have both come out against Israel, right? From my understanding.
I think they came out against them in a way that was more so to be virtuous than it is really like completely disavowing them because Bernie Sanders for quite a while, including up to October 7th, was in support of Israel defending itself. Not only
Well,
that, but
I think that he
AOC
was
has
making.
been.
I think that this was a case, if I could interrupt you, sorry, of Bernie Sanders trying to say to people who may not have agreed with him at the time that, like, of course, Israel has a right to defend itself, just like any other nation has a right to defend itself. However, comma, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like that was the message he was getting across.
If there's anything like that, I would love to know if he's done something like that. But as far as I know, I haven't heard AOC or Bernie Sanders call it a deliberate genocide of the Palestinian people. They've called it a massacre. They've called it a unlawful occupation, but I don't
I
think
feel like a
they've went as
massacre is
far
a
as to.
pretty. I feel like a massacre is a pretty strong word, though, don't you? Like that resonates with the American people.
I think it does as well, but I don't think that it's accurate as to what's going on in the Levant right now.
But if you were to come out and say to like the average dipshit, be like, you know that like Israel is engaging in a massacre of Palestinians. Do you feel like they'd be like, well, you know, a massacre is bad, but like I don't know if it's bad enough to warrant our intervention? Or do you think it'd be like, well, that's pretty fucking bad. Yeah, we should probably stop that.
I think it depends on the individual. Democrats have it not in like the general
Just
populace,
like
but
if you
like in
just like if you
office
took
right now.
somebody who didn't know anything about the issue, which is like a lot of Americans, right?
Okay, yeah. Um, I yeah, I suppose in like in that circumstance, it would be
Right.
positive for them. However, when talking about like the general population in like engaging with domestic and foreign policy, I think that we shouldn't be sugarcoating the atrocities that have been going on in that area.
Do you feel like the word massacre is sugarcoating it?
I feel like it's an underestimation as to the horrors that the IDF and the Israeli government has done to Gaza. Yeah.
And that's well, that I feel like I feel like calling that sugarcoating is not accurate. I feel like the word massacre carries a lot of weight, especially, of course, like I said, with the average person, right? Saying that
Hmm.
Israel is engaging in a massacre of Palestinian people. I believe Bernie Sanders has spoken out about like the amount of like I don't know specifically about the amount of children, but like they've pointed out these atrocities taking place. AOC and Bernie both. You know, you can put whatever language you want on it, but I feel like going after them for calling it a massacre and saying, well, that's not enough. That feels like a waste of time to me because they're still getting the core message across that this is bad, right?
I mean, sure. I don't know.
Like I just don't think that the average American is going to go, well, you know, massacre is pretty bad, but like I don't know if that's bad enough for me to care. Now, if it were a genocide, then I would care. The average person doesn't understand the difference between a massacre and a genocide. Like if I were to say the Holocaust was a massacre of the Jews, how many people do you think would correct me on that and be like, actually, it was a genocide?
I guess it all depends on the sort of communities that you're talking to, such as
Sure,
the Jewish community.
like I said, I just don't think it would be the average even the average Jew. I don't think would correct me on that. Like I think that they would nod their head in agreement and say, "You're right. It was pretty fucking bad."
So I guess in order to like follow up on that, do you think that Bernie Sanders actually cares about what's going on in Gaza right now?
I think that his message, I can't get inside of his head. If I had to say, he probably does. Like I was just looking at an article 17 hours ago. He was calling for an end to weapons supply in Israel. He says
Mm-hmm.
Netanyahu has not allowed any aid into Gaza in 22 days, which is factual. And I think that shining a light on this is, in fact, indicative of his care for what is going on over there. He's saying that Netanyahu broke the ceasefire, which is coming out against Netanyahu at all is like huge right now. Like it's important. He says that Netanyahu's resumed a bombing campaign that has killed more than 50,000 people. All of his messaging. He says no more military aid to Netanyahu's war machine. I just feel like this messaging is very indicative of his opposition to this campaign.
I mean, sure, when he's on the behind the podium, that might be
Yes,
the
talking
case.
to thousands and thousands of people who are
However,
listening and agreeing with him, more than likely.
mhm.
That's good platforming, right? That's good messaging. We should be getting that message out. Yes.
I think that message should be out, yes.
Okay.
However, I don't think that the sentiments are one that he intentionally like has sympathies for. What I mean by this is that during the Biden administration, after October 7th, there have been a increase of Palestinian protests that have been going on under his administration. And during such times, there were several protests. One that I can list off at the back of my head right now is Chicago in August. And when it comes to things like that, the protesters were practically mauled by the riot police that were protecting the DNC outside. This was on public property, by the way, so we couldn't really like impose that it's like a violation of like property in order to in protest. They were still on public property. They had a right to that speech. Bernie Sanders, however, as well as multiple Democrats, including AOC, have been silent on these measures, though, when it came to what happened to these protesters,
Sanders
52 of
voices
which in
support.
Chicago.
I'm looking at a news article right now. Sanders voices support for pro-Palestinian protests as he condemns, quote, all forms of bigotry. Senator Bernie Sanders said on Sunday that he supports protests against Israel's war in Gaza.
And which one are you looking at?
CNN
Like
article.
which news outlet? Okay. Um, um
He adds, I will grant you, we need to condemn in every form anti Semitism, Islamophobia, and other forms of bigotry. So he is cushioning his language a little bit. I will grant you that. But I still think this is an unambiguous support of the protesters and their right to protest and a support of the thing that they are protesting. Would you not agree? Right now, we are looking at the possibility, this is his quote, of mass starvation and famine in Gaza. When you make those charges, that is not anti-Semitic, that is a reality. This is from April 28th of 2024.
Okay, I'm looking at the article right now.
Right. What are your thoughts? Take your time.
Sorry.
You're fine. Take your time.
Oh, I just meant like
Oh,
I don't know if you heard the
I,
move
no,
shuffling
you
around.
can make as many weird noises as you want. No worries. Well, within certain confines.
Okay.
Sad. Hold on. Ah, Facade bot got it. Cool.
Yeah, I would agree that this is softening the blow. However, I do understand what you're trying to get at with this.
Well, your statement was that he's not vocal about the protests and their. That was your statement, right? Is that he's not talking about. He and AOC aren't talking about like the protesters and the crackdowns on them. Do you retract that, or do you stand by that?
With Bernie Sanders specifically, sure.
You retract that. Okay, so how about AOC? You want to talk about her?
Sure, we can talk about AOC.
Sure.
I have it here somewhere. Before we start talking about AOC, how do you feel about do you think that Bernie Sanders and AOC perpetuate the proper conditions for like the working class people to have a better condition in a society effectively?
I think so. Certainly better than what we have now. I think ultimately, the stance that I have is if they were our enemies, we would be in paradise. I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm saying that they are the best we've got, and we should strive to make people with their ideologies the farthest right that anybody goes. They should. They in a perfect world, as perfect as you could get, they ought to be our enemies, right? Like they should be who we're fighting against. The moderate socialism, but also still embracing capitalism types. Social democrats, essentially. Social democrats should be as far right as our politicians get. We're choosing our enemy.
But do you think that the social reformist perspective it would be ineffective, especially with Bernie Sanders and AOC? Bernie specifically being shot down multiple times by the DNC in his electoral process. Like he's won the caucuses and I mean the caucus and the super caucus in
Right, he was
the
shot down
2020
by the
election and the
Democrats for.
2016.
Why was he shot down by the Democrats?
I would say it's primarily because of his social extremism or
What
his
they
economic
consider, right,
extremism.
what Democrats consider social and economic extremism, which is Medicare for all and policies like that that would unambiguously benefit everybody, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, the
99.9%
Nordic structure,
who aren't billionaires, right? So my
the
point
Nordic
is,
structure. Yeah,
right. So my point is, you can recognize that the Democrats are lashing out against Bernie Sanders for being too woke, too progressive, what have you. But you're still sitting here telling me, well, Bernie Sanders is, we shouldn't support him. Why?
because I think that when it comes to progressives inside of the DNC, doing so is sort of reductive and it kind of pushes against our interest. What
How
I
does it
mean
push
by
against
that
our
specific,
interest? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I'm gonna get to that. What I mean by that is that with progressives inside of the Democratic Party, they are restricted multiple times from having their own voice in the electoral processes. Claudia de la Cruz in the Socialist Party, we would probably agree is a little bit more extreme than a progressive Democrat. They get banned off of the ballots quite often in states like Michigan, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. Um, whether or not it's Republican or Democrat, I think that we are just perpetuating the cycle of capitalism as it stands in hopes that social reform is actually going to get us to what we need. And I think that's a form of idealism.
Well, you can call that idealism, but right now we live under capitalism, and that system's not going away anytime soon. So while we live under it, I would prefer that our politicians be as progressive as possible, like AOC and Bernie Sanders, so that we can get things. I mean, Medicare for all is not socialism. We agree on that, right? Like that's you can have that in a
Yeah, it's
capitalist structure of the economy and still have slavery in Africa or South America, wherever it is, where they're mining cobalt for our fucking iPhones. It's disgusting.
yeah, it's a
Like
wealth.
we
Yeah,
still
it's a
live, right? We still live in the imperial core of the world. I agree with you. It's not the end state. We agree on that. But my point is, it's a step forward, a small one, I will grant you, but a step forward nonetheless. Like we are at least making life better for like millions upon millions of people who don't currently have health care or can't afford it or are in medical debt. Like Medicare for all alone is good enough reason for me to support Bernie Sanders and his campaign. Like that's a no-brainer.
I just think that you're not going to be able to get that if you support like the civility process of democratic action.
What they're doing right now is not necessarily like the civility process, quote unquote. They are going out and campaigning, drawing thousands upon thousands of people to their rallies. And first of all, like they're politicians, right? They can't like organize riots or militias or anything like that. That's not what they do. Okay, they are inside of the system of oppression. That's what they signed up for. And you can criticize them all you want for that, but without them, we'd probably be in a way worse state than we are now. Do you at least agree with that?
I'm not sure if I would agree with that.
Okay.
What I why I would say that is that just because Bernie Sanders is a social and economic progressive, I don't think is going to liberate the workers, so to say, especially with the checks and
It's
balances
not
that the
okay.
United States
It's
has.
not
I think
it's
it's
not
more.
it's not about Bernie Sanders being the guy to do a socialism or a communism or an anarchy. That's not his job. Okay? His job, because it's nobody's job right now. Our job right now, since we live in a fascist state, is to secure as many rights for as many people as we can using the means at our discretion. And that, I feel, is what Bernie Sanders is doing his utmost to accomplish. He makes some mistakes here and there. I don't agree with everything Bernie Sanders does and says, but damn if he isn't trying.
I
And I support that.
Yeah, sure, you could support it. I just don't think that it's feasible. Um, in our like, let
What do
me
you mean not
put this into
feasible?
like
What's more feasible than that?
I'm gonna get into like the I'm gonna get into the like the historical context of this. When
Okay.
we look at yeah, when we look at retort against fascist regimes in say the Weimar Republic or Spain when it was under its civil war. Liberals, whilst they had like a civil right to disagree with the fascist, they still perpetuated themselves in a way that aligned with the fascists that gave them that optic of power anyway, even if they were civilly going against them. This also extends to
How has Bernie Sanders
the
done that?
how does Bernie Sanders done that? I'm speaking generally of the Democratic Party, which would include Bernie
Right.
Sanders.
Well, technically, Bernie Sanders, what I've been told is that he's not part of the Democratic caucus. He's an independent, technically. Like, he works with the Democrats a lot because they're more progressive, at least by slight margins, than the Republicans are. so he'll work with them often, but he himself is not a Democrat. You can call him a liberal. I think that's fair, but he's the most progressive liberal politician that we have, arguably, right?
I would, in a way that he has been given a voice by it being a part of the Democratic Party and his
Right.
running in the 2020 and 2016 vote. Probably, sure.
Right. He is using the tools at his disposal to garner the power that he is able to assist as many people as he can before he passes from this mortal plane. That's what I see him doing. I mean, if he wanted it easy, if he wanted to like align with the structure, he could just do that. He could just be a Chuck Schumer, you know? But he's not. He's constantly criticizing the Democrats, right? He's constantly pushing for more and more and more progressive policies. I mean, he jumped from what, a $15 per hour minimum wage to 17 now, which I think was reasonable, but he didn't have to do that. He's trying.
And do you think that trying inside of the roots of our governing process is going to get us anywhere?
I would rather have him there than an establishment Democrat. Can we at least agree on that?
Sure.
Okay, great. So my question to you, I guess, would be, what should he be doing if not what he's doing right now?
For Bernie Sanders specifically, right? Not just like all of the progressives.
Correct. Just Bernie Sanders. You can include AOC in the Justice Dems if you want. But primarily, let's just talk about Bernie Sanders. What is he not doing right now that he ought to be doing that would be more effective in your eyes? And again, I agree. There are some things he could be doing better. He could always be more outspoken. He could always rail against Trump more than he is. He doesn't have to lick Trump's cock when it comes to fucking the border. Like, he doesn't have to do that. I agree. But despite all that, I don't think anything radically different would be better for him.
I mean, in his position as a, well, yeah, in his position as a politician, I don't think that he is going to be able to do anything.
Okay, so he should drop out he should drop out of the caucus completely, right?
I don't think that he should drop out of the caucus entirely. I think that's going to be a straw man of my argument.
No, it's not a straw man. That is the end conclusion of what you are saying. You're saying that as a politician, he cannot do more than what he's doing. Is that your stance?
In that I don't think that other progressives are going to be viable in the future of the Republican establishment as of right now. Yeah.
I am asking you right now, as a Democrat, not as a Democrat, as a politician, can Bernie Sanders, like, we agree that he can be doing a couple of things differently and better, but overall, like, is there anything he could be doing radically and substantially differently as a politician to affect change? Yes or no? And if so, what is it? Okay, so no. So should he be doing something differently at all? Like, regardless of whether he's a politician or not?
Whether he should be, depending on whether he could, is all depending.
What do you think?
I think that he needs to drop the soft-handed blows, and he needs to be more explicit about the messaging.
I agree.
We can agree that the United States is in a very horrible situation right now.
You stick on my question. I'm sorry, but my question was, could he be radically so we agree that he can't really do anything radically differently as a politician.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, if that's the case, and you don't agree with what he's doing, and we should not support him, because that's why you're here talking to me right now, yes?
I would say that we should have stronger criticisms of him in the civility of the progressive liberals.
Okay, but your stance, if I recall correctly in my YouTube comments, and you can correct me on this, was we should not be supporting him. And I said we can have critical support of him. And you can have critical support of Bernie Sanders while not lapping up every single thing that he does as gospel, right?
Did I say that? Let me go check, Brent,
Sure.
real quick.
Sure. While you check that, I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick. Give me 1 sec.
Please don't praise Bernie. During a rally he was going to attend to, he created concern. He treated concerned Palestinian protesters
I'm putting you on mute
horribly.
until I
Not
get back.
only that,
I'm here to steal content, and I'm here to profit off of it.
What just happened? Something's happening. Can that noise stop? Hold on, I still have you on mute. Give me just a second. That's an old fucking Twitch alert. Okay, hold on. I'm making that noise right now. Sorry if it's too loud. You are making it? How? Okay. I'm unmuting.
hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I got the comment right here.
Sure. And if you change your mind, that's not a big deal. I'm not going to stick you on that or make fun of you. It's just like, I think that you can have critical support. I think you should have critical support for Bernie Sanders. I think that that is a good thing to do. And it's better than saying, well, Bernie Sanders isn't woke enough for me or whatever.
So what I said was, I don't think so, especially if we are looking at this from a nuanced perspective in a Marxist framework. These social reforms, though through civility politics, will get us will not get us anywhere. Historically speaking, has given ground to the reactionary.
Sorry, say that again. What won't give it us anywhere?
Civility politics.
Do you consider pushing for Medicare for all to be civility politics?
If it's in the advocacy inside of the government, I would say it's a form of civility politics.
Okay, so you do not think that making sure that Americans can receive health care free of charge is going to get us anywhere, right?
I think that it's admirable to talk about it, but I don't think that
He has pushed
talking
for
about
it. He has suggested it. He has put the idea out into the populace and made it popular. He's a populist.
To what? But to what degree is that going to affect affect Congress and the House?
It's better than not doing anything, I would say. Right?
Will
like, if he were part of the establishment, if he were completely ingrained in the establishment, he wouldn't have said that. He would have never put that idea out there to begin with. Nobody thought about, because the way that most people are raised in the United States is, oh, I go to the doctor, I pay for the doctor, it's expensive, but I'll do it because I need it. That's the way people are raised. Bernie Sanders came out and said, no, 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 it does not have to be that way. You have all been, I don't know if he used these exact words, probably not, but he essentially convinced everybody, you've all been duped into thinking that this is a commodity, a luxury. And he's saying, no, it's not. You deserve this. It should be free of charge. And I think that it is a good thing to do to get that idea out there, that messaging to the average person. That way, you know, even if he cannot personally implement it because he's not God, King, Emperor like Donald Trump is, he can at least push for it and make progress towards it. I mean, right now, I actually looked at because I live in Ohio. I looked at Ohio's legislature. They are pushing for a statewide, which they're not going to get it, but they're literally right now in committee is a House bill or a Senate bill, I forget which, stating that Ohioans get medical care free of charge. It's basically Medicare for all, just for Ohio. I don't think that would have happened without Bernie Sanders' influence.
Okay. Reading something in 1 sec.
Take your time.
Also, if I don't remember anything, or if I don't say something as accurate as I would, I do apologize. I have dissociative identity disorder. There are gaps in my memory, and there are things that I do not remember at times.
No worries. I will try not to push you too hard on those things. And if I'm coming off harshly at all, it's simply because I have a strong belief that it is a waste of time to nitpick Bernie Sanders when he's objectively doing way more good than he is harm. And critique is not nitpicking, mind you. Critique's fine.
Sure.
I just think it behooves us to be supportive of him.
Well, I'm not saying that what he's doing is bad. What I'm saying is that it's ineffective.
I disagree.
I think it's why?
Because it is clear, if nothing else, you have to agree with me that it has at least inspired people to understand that we could have a world in which healthcare is free, right?
I think when it comes to that, sure, but I think when it comes to
that in itself, if he has done nothing else, that takeaway is huge. Because without Bernie Sanders, most people in this country who currently believe that Medicare for all is a possibility would not believe that. They just be docile and say, oh, well, you know, I guess medical debt is just the way to go. No, Bernie Sanders said, fuck that. He said, you deserve better. And I think that attitude is great. I think even if he has done nothing policy-wise, that putting that idea out into the atmosphere with his platform and his poll has been enormous. A huge boon to socialism and our drive to make sure that everybody has what they fucking need to survive. Unambiguously.
Right. But the people, as I was trying to say, I have no doubt that he has made long strides with the people. I just don't think that when it comes to the government, they are going to establish these things. I think that with this, I don't think protest is going to be enough in order to do something like this, especially since...
Go ahead.
Yeah, especially since, well, with the modern condition of the with the federal government as it stands right now. I think that it's highly unlikely that Donald Trump is going to be likely to um, give that power to the Democrat or the third
Of
party
course he's
voters
not.
again.
Of course he's not. He's Donald Trump. If the Democrats had all been more like Bernie Sanders, we probably wouldn't be in this situation. We'd probably have healthcare for all. That makes Bernie Sanders objectively and better, at least, if not good. You may not agree that he's good overall, but at the very least, we'd be in a better off spot than we're in now, right?
Maybe.
I think,
Let me
unironically, yes. And I think that if you think differently, then you're not paying attention.
let me try to frame it like this.
Sure.
Do you think that Donald Trump is a symptom of a bigger problem, or do you think that he is a major problem with this country?
That's a complicated question. I think that as far as being a problem, Donald Trump is mostly just a figurehead for a fascist organization that has been festering essentially, I would say, at least as far back as the Ronald Reagan era, but you could certainly make an argument that it stretches back to the days when slavery was dominant in our society. You know, the slavers Reconstruction never really finished. You know, Abraham Lincoln was I think, from what I remember from history, I don't remember much, but I believe Abraham Lincoln was a little bit of a pussy about it. And then his vice president, when Lincoln was killed for his egregious actions of making sure that black people could not be slaves, his vice president took power. I forget who that was, and he did not finish Reconstruction. And so ever since then, I mean, this racist, fascist movement, which is also misogynistic and homophobic and every other phobic that you want to throw in there, has just been building and building and building, and it's culminated into what it is right now, with Donald Trump at its head, and Elon Musk, of course, because you could get into how fascists and billionaires love to stay in bed together, whatever, but you get the point.
Yeah, if I could go on a little bit of a ramble for a second,
Sure.
I want to try and make you understand my perspective as to where I'm coming from. So, in the United States, from, let's say, the 1619 project of Jamestown, all the way up to the modern day, I would consider the colonial actions of the United States to be rooted in symptoms of what we would consider to be fascistic tendencies. The imperialist actions that we have perpetuated on the Philippines, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, the list goes on, basically.
Of course,
coups,
America
the
bad.
occupations,
I agree.
coups, occupations, that sort of thing. These tend to affect people that we have around us. I think that when we are talking about the American establishment as it stands, and how ineffective it is for people like Bernie Sanders to take a responsibility of trying to push themselves into the electoral process, or people like him into the electoral process, through capitalism and through lobbying. It's not likely that that's going to occur under the conditions that we have right now.
Okay, so Bernie Sanders should step down, right, and do something else.
Again, I think that would be a straw man as to
That's
what I'm
not
trying
a
to get
straw
at.
man. No, stop. What you're saying is that Bernie Sanders, as a politician, cannot effectually change what he wants to change. He's not having the intended effect that moves us closer to socialism and communism or whatever, right?
Well, I wouldn't consider social democracy to be anywhere close to socialism.
I don't either, but it's certainly closer than fucking fascistic capitalism and oligarchies, right? Closer. I didn't say get us to fully automated luxuries of gay-based communism. Bernie does not live in that society. He would fight tooth and nail against it. I do not doubt that, okay? I don't doubt that. My point is, Bernie Sanders in the government right now, and he is making changes toward that direction. Okay, he is step one in a fucking million baby steps toward fully automated luxury gay space communism. That's my argument.
Well, the gay space communism shtick is like utopian idealism, but I get what you're talking about.
I'm just speaking metaphorically. You get my point, right?
Sure, it's less fascistic than what we have right now.
Which is good. He's probably the least fascistic governor, or not governor, the person in the government that we have
Senator.
right now. Senator. That's what I meant. Like the least fascistic politician is what I meant. Right?
As it stands in the United States, yes, he is less fascist.
Okay, so then
others.
my point is, if you don't think he should step down, but you also don't think that we should support him, then what should he be doing differently? Besides the minutia that we've discussed. Obviously, we agree that Bernie Sanders is not perfect. But what could he be doing drastically differently as a politician that he's not doing now? And if you don't have an answer to that, then my conclusion is you believe that he should no longer be a politician. Maybe you think that he should be a revolutionary leader of some sort or something. I don't know. But that's the conclusion that I'm hearing.
I just don't think that it's enough to get us to where we want to in the
It's not. Of course
steps.
it's not. Of course it's not. Okay? Much like when an infant is learning to crawl, that's not enough to make him a Usain Bolt. Right?
No, but we're not a infant in our stage in capitalism. We're striving. We are, well, as of right now in capitalism, we've got the third leg. As of right now, we got the cane, we got the crux. But I don't think that it's going to get us anywhere. I think that we're in a process.
So publicly pushing for Medicare for all gets us nowhere, right?
If I can just say real quick.
Okay.
The state of the United States, as of right now, in capitalism, I do not think, unless we were to deconstruct capitalism in general, we are going to be able to see the Nordic system that Bernie Sanders strides for.
Okay, but he is putting the seeds out there, correct? He is trying to plant the seeds for the trees under whose shade he will never sit. That's how I see it. Of course, we're not going to have. It could be that never in my lifetime will I ever have free healthcare, ever, in the United States. Sucks, but that's life. You know, that's just fucking capitalism for you. But what Bernie Sanders and people like him, like the Justice Dems, are fighting for is a future in which that is at least a possibility. He's making it easier for us to achieve that, and I think that's good.
Okay. So I agree that what he is arguing for is going to be a lot better.
Yes.
Whether or not we are capable of doing that, I do not think that is possible. That's what I'm getting at. Now, what I mean by this is that under the Nordic model, it would come with social reform. The Nordic model started off in ways in the New Deal under President Franklin Roosevelt. He done a lot of means to nationalize certain areas, subsidize in order to reestablish a firm and thorough economy before World War II, and that pushed us into the economy that we had for quite a while, even though we had the social constraints of segregation and land back in its baby steps. But with in context to this, Reaganomics specifically, I think, because of how it developed and due to the conditions that we have right now, it is not likely that it's going to happen. And I think that whilst he is planting the seeds of first world class consciousness, I do not think that it is going to be established. Not not in the sense like the United States government is going to put it in, but I think that the United States is going to be more so likely that it's going to collapse due to the isolationist tendencies of Donald Trump and due to his war hawking over this just came out over Yemen and his plans for annexing Greenland as of right now, with him putting military there. These sort of things will isolate the United States, and I feel like that it's going to put us into an economic crash before anything else. And if it's going to put us into an economic crash, I think that crash is going to most likely be the end of the United States before anything else. That's just from my observations of the United States. So when I'm talking about Bernie Sanders specifically not being as effective as he, when it comes to the Nordic model that we should strive for, I'm saying that that is ideal for our society and not practical.
Ideal for our society, but not practical. It's not practical for him to strive for a So you're saying because you think that the United States is going. Hold on.
It's not practical for us to work under the Nordic model as of right now.
You don't think that instituting Medicare for all, like if you could do it tomorrow, you wouldn't do it?
If I could, yes, but that's
okay. Idealism. If you could, because you understand that even in a collapsing society, like let's say that the United States will collapse in like a year from now. Like I would at least prefer for that year to have free healthcare, right? Save a lot of lives.
Not sure how many lives it'll save if the economy
enough. If it saves one, that's enough. Right? The person who's trying to choose between rent and their diabetic medication can just pay their rent instead. We can talk about rent. I know that we both agree that rent sucks and it's immoral, whatever. But the point is, if we're just talking about healthcare for all, Medicare for all, it's a lot better to have it than to not have it, even in a collapsing state, right? Or even if you can't have it, at least convince people that, hey, you know, if the state collapses, maybe this is the direction we should build toward. Making sure that everybody can afford their healthcare or get it for free, even. I think planting those seeds is an objective good. And what you're telling me is that Bernie Sanders is not worth the support for that, right?
I said that he is not effective in his position as of right now.
He has been effective in mobilizing I would argue probably millions of people into believing that a better healthcare system is possible, if nothing else. If nothing else. Would you
agree with that? And do you think
that
social... Sure, but do you think that social reform is going to be... So do you think that social reform is going to get anybody anywhere? Do you think that the United States government is... Yeah, do you think the United States government is actually going to take strides in that?
My point is, even if the federal government doesn't do anything about it, this is still a democracy. They still care about how they look in the eyes of the public. And if they didn't, then Donald Trump wouldn't be trying to paint, like even Donald Trump, one of the most inept, fucking disgusting pieces of shit alive, would not be trying to paint the things he does as good. Even kings and dictators did this. Hitler tried to cover up the Holocaust. If he didn't give a shit how he looked to the public, he'd just be like, yes, you know, we are killing the Jews. Yes, it's 5 million, 6 million and counting, right? Like, he wouldn't care. Politicians, no matter how powerful they are, understand the power that people have. And they will do everything they can to remain looking good in the eyes of the public, right? So public opinion matters. So if the public wants universal health care to a great enough extent, eventually it just becomes an inevitability. And Bernie Sanders has pushed for that inevitability. Whether you like it or not.
What % do you think support public health care and nationalized health care as of right now?
More than if Bernie Sanders had not pushed for it. I can tell you that for a fact.
And do you think that these incremental steps are going to be effective in the long run for the United States?
I think they're better than nothing. Can we agree on that?
Sure, they're better than
Good.
nothing.
Good. Yes. Of course it's incremental. But unless you have a solution to do something faster, I just like every time that I feel like
Nothing
whenever
that
I
will
have
get
these
the NSA on
conversations,
me.
huh?
Nothing that'll get the NSA on me.
Well, right. But I feel like every time I have these conversations, like there's no alternative. It's like, oh, well, we shouldn't be supporting Bernie Sanders and AOC sweaty. That's kind of cringe sweaty. What are you, a fucking capitalist sweaty? Like, do you not want communism sweaty? Like, no, that's not the case. I understand that Bernie's not a fucking communist. He's a capitalist, okay? He's a dirty, disgusting fucking capitalist. Bernie Sanders is. I get it. But you know what? He's the best capitalist we got right now. And I'd rather have capitalism with free healthcare than capitalism where I have to pay $1,000 fucking dollars every time I need a tooth pulled or a cavity filled or my eyes checked. You know, like we can agree on that, right? Like capitalism is not going away tomorrow. So in the meantime, we will push for the things that we can push for, make people's lives better in the small ways that we can. Sometimes it just is incremental, and I know that's frustrating, but that's better than nothing. So I just don't understand where this disdain for Bernie's coming from.
Whew. Okay.
Am I mischaracterizing that?
I would say that you saying that I think that Bernie Sanders should do absolutely nothing is
I never said that. I never said that. I said that I think that you think that Bernie Sanders, we agree that he could be doing more. But what I'm saying is that it feels like you think that Bernie Sanders, unless he's like a revolutionary leader of a rebel militia, that he's not doing enough, and so we shouldn't support him. That's what I think. Because your argument, once again, is that we should not support him, right? Am I mischaracterizing that?
Let me look at it again.
I'm asking you right now what your opinion is. Should we support what Bernie Sanders is doing? For the most part.
I said that we should not be praising him.
Why not? Define praising, by the way. Like, when I say support Bernie Sanders, I'm not saying worship the ground he walks on, even though I make jokes about it. What I'm saying is he's the best we got right now, and sometimes he says good things and fights for good things, and that's a good thing to do. And we should support it when he does that. Do you agree with that?
For first-class citizens, sure, it's
No, for
better
anybody.
than where we
For
are.
anybody. What do you mean first-class citizens? Anybody should support that.
I think anybody should support that, but I don't
Yes.
think that it's going to support everybody.
Okay. What do you mean? Medicare for all would literally support everybody. Even billionaires. Am I wrong? You can argue it's
Sorry,
not
I'm
enough,
just-
and it's not. Oh, okay, take your time. You can argue it's not enough, and it's not, and you'd be correct in stating that. But again, just I fail to see why you're saying, well, I just think it's cringe to praise Bernie, when I say, well, he did great things, he made great strides for Medicare for all. That's not necessarily worshiping him. It's just saying that was a good thing to do, and I think that's fine.
Well, I'm not saying that you're worshiping him.
You said praising. I know that there's a different connotations, but you know, same concept. That's what I felt like you were getting at.
It wasn't, but
It wasn't. Okay, so then in that case, I do praise Bernie Sanders when he pushes for Medicare for all, and I think that's good, don't you?
Sure.
Okay, then we both agree that praising Bernie Sanders is sometimes a good thing to do. Not when he's talking about Trump and the border and how great Trump's doing at the border or whatever. But when he pushes for Medicare for all, that's worth praise. I'm glad we agree on that.
Okay.
If you feel like I'm mischaracterizing your position, you are more than welcome to say so. I'm not trying to be dishonest here. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of what you feel about Bernie Sanders and how we should treat him.
Okay. Sorry, the yelling is a little overstimulating.
I'm not trying to yell. I'm trying to make my point. That's it.
Yeah, sure. How do I phrase this then?
I will try to tone my voice down, though.
No, you're fine. It's just that,
Well, I want to make sure that I'm accommodating you. You are a guest, and you agreed to come on, and I know this is, not...
I'm trying to be cordial.
Sure. I will try to reciprocate. I apologize if it feels like I have not been.
Well, I wouldn't treat, my guests on my panels with the level of respect that I am showing you, because I watched you for quite a little bit before coming to my position, so...
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out how to phrase this properly.
Sure. Take your time.
Because I...
All the time you need.
Yeah. So, it is ideal that we want healthcare for all.
Yes.
I think we can agree on that. It is ideal. And I think that we should want that. However, under the conditions that we are under right now, what is the probability that something like that is going to occur under the state of our government?
Not likely, but much greater thanks to Bernie Sanders. I doubt that will happen in the next 4 years, if that's what you're asking. Donald Trump doesn't give a shit what Bernie Sanders thinks, but you know who does? A lot of the population, and he's proven that. So if and when the Democrats get back into office, we can be hopeful that they'll at least consider a public option or something, a compromise. And that won't be enough, but it's something. It's better than what we got. We are pushing for better than what we have now, which is shit. I would rather have less shit. And Bernie Sanders is pushing for that effectively. Because public opinion is very important when it comes to politicians and the policies they push for. They have to care about what their constituents think. If they don't, they'll be lynched. It's always worked like that throughout history.
Okay. So, while I would agree that the general population that are being told that healthcare for all is going to be a lot better than what we have right now. So, just so we have, because I'm trying to list off my point, and okay.
Take all the time you need. Organize your thoughts.
So, when it comes to this, yes, less shit on the plate. However, this is a talking condition for what might occur, and when I perceive what our conditions is under a state of white supremacy, a state of capitalism, not just under Donald Trump, but just under the current establishment of the United States government, with the variables that we can observe, that it is not likely to occur. Yes, you could say that it is more likely that the Nordic model can be implemented inside of these given circumstances. I would not though argue that because it is more likely that it is then enough as of right now.
I did not say it's enough. I said we should support Bernie Sanders in his efforts to make this a more popular position. I mean, I talk to normies now who, some of them literally voted for Trump, including my brother, who's a dipshit for that, and I understand that. But even he thinks that healthcare should not be profit-driven. It should just be free. He was a Bernie Sanders supporter before voting for Trump. I mean, that's got to count for something.
I think that it does. However, I do think that given the alt-right condition for rhetoric, I think that that's a lot of deconstructing that it is going to need to occur. And I think with the Overton window of the Republican Party as it stands right now, this sort of thing, I do not think that it will be a nonviolent process.
And I don't necessarily disagree with you, but Bernie's not in a position to partake in things that are not nonviolent. And unless you think that he ought to drop out and do so, which I would never ask of you to admit because I am not a Fed poster, but you haven't even confirmed that Bernie should drop out of being a politician. You don't think that he should.
Well, I'm not advocating for violence.
Nor am I. Nor I would never do such a thing. Certainly, especially not against our Lord and Savior Elon Musk and his great Teslas. I would never do that. Okay? But what I am saying is that I have not heard from you even an admission that Bernie Sanders could do better as somebody who's not a politician.
This was not the dialogue tree I was expecting.
I guess Lady Nova said it in the chat. I just don't know what argument you're making. Like, what's the crux of your argument here? What's the bottom line? So how should I look at Bernie Sanders?
Sorry, I'm
Don't worry about
dissociating right now.
Do you want to take a minute while I go to the bathroom again?
Sure.
Okay, I'll be right back. I'm gonna put you on mute. Take all the time you need. Like I said, no pressure. I'm sorry if my voice got raised. I will make it a concerted effort to not do that again. Give me just a bit. One sec, guys. Okay. Am I muting? No. Are
Okay.
you with us? Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Would you like me to start or would you like to go?
Yeah, I'll go.
Sure. I'll be quiet. I'll try not to interrupt.
It's fine. It's just okay. So, when it comes to the United States, Bernie Sanders specifically, I think that his opinions are valid. I think that we should have universal health care. I do think that is something that we should strive for. We should go for nationalized education. Those are great things. I think they are a lot better than where we're at right now. But and you're going to try and tie this back to Bernie Sanders, and let's just say, for the sake of argument, that I concede that Bernie Sanders is good. I do not think, however, when it comes to popular opinion, that the United States is going to act on any of this. When it comes to the civil rights movement, especially, I think that there was a lot more that could have been done in order to help Black people or the LGBT or Indigenous people in that sort of matter, BIPOC people. I think that when we play these acts of protest and these discussions with the oppressor, the politician, the capitalist, I think we're just, in a sense, just prolonging our suffering in that degree. And what I mean by prolonging our suffering is that we are being way too charitable with them. And I think that just conversing with them is going to be something that is going to be more detrimental to the United States and the American people than if we were to organize. I'm not saying that we should stand up and fight. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
Never.
that we should do a Che Guevara. Okay, Mao, landlords. No, none of that.
Landlords are poggers. We agree.
Landlords are poggers. Yeah, so true, bestie.
Yep.
Just that the government is not going to tolerate this, and they're not going to allow it. Given the policies, given the condition of the economy as it stands right now, given the lobby that a lot of politicians they're in a lot of corporate pockets. Lockheed Martin, Tesla, we can go on. I think that organizing and being effective in that sort of regard is going to be a lot more effective for us than just backing ourselves behind one individual or backing behind a couple of individuals.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
That's basically my one thing that I suppose that I'll end off on, because I don't know. One, I am overstimulated. Two, I don't know how long I can personally be in the front, because I am rather anxious right now. And when things like this happen, it usually isn't productive.
That's fine. Would you like to leave right now or would you like to hear me out for a second? Either way's fine. You're not fleeing the conversation. You're not running away. I just want to make sure that we're square on what we both think.
Yeah, you can go. I completely respect you, and I don't think that you're a bad person. I don't think that you're a bad debater either. It's just I have my own issues, and I hope that you can respect that.
Of course. What I heard is you saying that it sounds like an either or to you. Like we need to organize instead of supporting Bernie Sanders. I don't agree with that. I think that you can organize and support Bernie Sanders critically. And I mean, I feel like there's nuance here. It's not black or white. We can support the good things that Bernie Sanders does, the good policies he supports. So, yeah, it's great that Bernie Sanders is fighting for this. It's great that Bernie Sanders is advocating for this and organizing rallies and convincing people that healthcare should be free, that housing should be affordable or free, that Israel should stop genociding Palestine, even if he doesn't call it a genocide. He should. I'm not disagreeing with you. He should call it a genocide. But I feel like massacre is also carrying a lot of weight there, personally. And I feel like overall, he is putting out good messaging. We can support Bernie Sanders in that messaging while doing our own organizing locally, while getting involved in DSA or running for local office or what have you. Okay? We can do both. And I just don't think that it's productive to point at Bernie Sanders and say, well, he's cringe because he's not doing enough. You know, you're not wrong. Maybe he's not. But what are we getting out of that? I feel like nothing. We're only stabbing ourselves in the back by, or shooting ourselves in the foot, I should say, by trying to point the finger at Bernie Sanders and say, well, you know, the rest of you guys are cringe. I'm actually, you know, the whatever, the most socialist, communist, whatever, for thinking that Bernie Sanders is cringe, while the rest of you suckers listen to him and praise him. I don't think that's productive. That's my bottom line. You can do both. Does that make sense? And feel free to point out if I mischaracterized you at all. I'm not trying to do that.
Okay.
I know you need to go. I know you're overstimulated. I'm not trying to keep you.
No, it's okay. It's just I'm like fidgeting right here. I'm doing ticks, just trying to relax.
Sure. And if you would like to continue this conversation another time, we can.
Yeah, sure. I think I need to do a more like thorough because I had it written down here, but I think I need to do it a little bit more thorough. I did it all in like the last minute with a couple of friends of mine discussing about Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
If you want to do it at a different time, we can. I don't know if you're going to post this video or not. Just that with how I stand on this matter, when it comes to Bernie Sanders as one person, I think that, because I think you already said this, he is advocating for good things, and I would agree. And he's doing everything that he can inside of the parameters of the political establishment. He hasn't taken any lobbying money. He has not taken any sort of bribery from anybody, no corporation. I would agree with that. Just that, could we agree that it isn't likely that even in popular interest of free healthcare for all, or nationalized education, or taxing the rich, like these things, given the conditions, the material conditions, the social conditions, the current establishment of the United States as it stands right now, it is unlikely. And you can say yes, but it is more likely if Bernie Sanders is around advocating for this. That could be true. I'll grant you that. Just that when it comes to it, it's at this very moment just an ideal condition that we are trying to advocate for instead of the parameters that are practical in the given moment.
I apologize. Where did I leave off at?
You kind of dropped when I was talking about the abortion thing with the with Ohio and how their public opinion was majority of the time going to be more pro-abortion than anything else.
Okay. I didn't hear that part. So, does that mean that we're continuing this conversation, or do you need to go? Because I don't want to keep you any longer than I need to, because I know you said you're overstimulated.
Yeah, not only that, it's just that yeah, sorry if I couldn't like concretely describe my grounds to you.
That's fine. If you want to come on again at some point and discuss this again, that's fine. I guess what I'm walking away from this with, though, is it sounded to me like you don't agree that we should be giving any kind of accolades to Bernie Sanders, which I understand he's, as an end goal, he should be our opponent rather than our ally, and I agree with that. But right now, he is our ally, and I think, and I stand by that. I think that he's doing good work. And my impression was that you disagree with that. So we can, and I don't want to get into a whole other branch of conversation, but we can just end off, either agreeing or disagreeing that he's our ally. And then if you'd like to discuss that more, we can schedule something else.
Sure.
Okay. Well, my DMs are open. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Final thoughts.
Just want to say, I appreciate you as a content creator, and I know we disagree on quite a few things, given the conversation. I don't think anything different from you. I think that we should just. Well, it would be redundant if I said that anyway, but yeah, I guess that's all that I have to say as of right now.
Okay, no worries. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I do appreciate your time, and I know that it's not the easiest environment sometimes, so I appreciate you putting up with it. Again, I did not mean to, raise my voice at you. I just understand that I can get passionate sometimes. It's not anything personal. We probably agree on more things than we disagree on. Just, I do think that Bernie Sanders deserves our support, and that's all I was trying to say. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Well, you have a great night. If you'd like to come on again, you're more than welcome. And if not, don't feel pressured. Okay?
All right.
All right. You take care. Okay?
Yeah, appreciate it.
Of course. Have a good night. Not sure what to make of it. Like I said, it's just like, I just don't know if we're not going to support Bernie Sanders when he does good things, then, I mean, we can do that while we organize, Like, it just sounds like in some people's heads, it's an either or kind of thing. Well, we can organize or we can support Bernie Sanders. And it's like, no, you can do both. You can join the DSA. You can run for local office. You can get involved in your local LGBTQ alliance or whatever, the organization. You can do all of these things and also recognize that Bernie Sanders, and you can arm yourself too. Not for any revolution or anything. Don't get on me, CIA, FBI, whatever. I know you're watching. I'm not saying that. Just exercise your Second Amendment right and arm yourself, right? You can do all of those things while recognizing the good that Bernie Sanders and AOC and the Justice Dems are doing for us. No disrespect to the guests, but I don't feel like anything came from that. It was kind of frustrating. Like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm really not. But like, I just could not pin down what this person was trying to get at, you know? Like, I offered them to come on at a later date, just so you guys know. Like, we did this today, like, set it up today. A little bit of spur of the moment, but I offered them to come on at a later date if they needed more time to prepare. So, you know, maybe, maybe if it takes some time to prepare and come with a more structured and organized argument as to why we should or should not support Bernie Sanders, or what Bernie Sanders could be doing better or not, then maybe we can have a more productive conversation. But I do generally agree that was not the most productive conversation as it stands.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more, hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload. If you enjoy my content, you enjoy what I do, I really appreciate any financial help that I can get. Go to youtube.com/AlecGunterTTV/join. You got some awesome benefits, such as seeing early videos, awesome emotes that you can use in the comments of YouTube videos, and a sweet badge next to your name. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd really appreciate if you join. It is cheaper than the cost of a blowjob from your mom. So with all that being said, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.